Priti, Aanand, Siddharth, Rhea, Karan, thank you for joining us on the second Film Producers Adda for Film Companion. It's been such an eventful year, and I'm super excited that all of you could come here and help me sort of make sense of it. When we did this last year, Karan, you were part of it, the big conversation was crisis of content. That was the big trend of last year. Karan, you said that we're not pushing the envelope. In terms of technology, in terms of content. But this year, we've had, at least in terms of content, tech, we're still not doing it unless you prove us wrong. In terms of content, we've had, many mid-budget films, Three and Andhadhun and Badhai Ho, and others do so well. Are we in a better place in terms of content? And Karan, you have, of course, also taken a big step in terms of empowering writers because you put your writers' names above your own for the poster of Takht. So these were the big conversations last year. Okay, we don't empower writers and there's a crisis of content. Is it a better situation at the end of 2018?
I think it definitely is. I think that it's very strange. From possibly the worst year of the movies, we've had the best year in decades. Not only in terms of content, but in terms of just the way everything is going about. I think everyone's realized that, you got to empower writers. You got to give them their place in this place. Only because if you don't empower them, then we're never going to get great content. And empowerment doesn't just mean, I think, paying them more. It also means platforming them. Giving them that right and giving them that respect, which is sometimes I feel like we tend not to do. I think it becomes a very filmmaker, actor domain, and I think it's really the writers who are not director writers, but just writers who work independently, who need to be empowered. As you said, the films this year, the high content films have gone like through the roof. Like, we had like everything that you thought would never work has worked. Starting with Veere the Wedding, where everyone thought like it was like controversial and sensational. Oh, this film won't be seen by families. Oh, the usual myths that surround the industry. Then films like Badhai Ho and Andhadhun, and look at the numbers that are coming out like of these movies. And even smaller films that you would imagine would just fade into oblivion are doing an X amount, like a Tumbad, that does actually is in the cinema halls for nearly 6-7 weeks, and it touches a number only because it's relentless. There's an audience. Yes, with technology, I think with 2.0, there is some kind of a sunshine in that zone. And with Zero, of course, working vehemently towards kind of creating a mark, there is actually a great time. I'm surprised that, last year we were all so sad.
Yeah,
and
everybody
was like sounding very deflated because it was such a bad year.
And it's also the diversity of the stories, of the content. So there is not, it's not genre specific anymore. It's been Raid. It began with Sonu Ki T2, Raid, then with Razi for us, and then it's just moved on, Veere the Wedding. So what's been fabulous is the diversity of the content and the stories that have done spectacularly well. I'm not sure it has anything to do with the budget size as much as it has to do with the fact that the audience has embraced every kind of content that they've enjoyed. And that's been special for this year. But I also think that this year is a result of at least 2 years of hard work. So I think that our understanding,
depending on if your actor was pregnant or not.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, well, you had to combat that partially.
Happily.
Happily.
So I think that we seeded all of this. So while we were despondent last year, the fact is the work had started towards having a year like this at least 2 years ago. And we are seeing results, and I think now it's going to be a continuous process. It's not going to be something that you will find halted because 2018 has been special at the box office.
Yeah. Aanand, you put your might behind so many different movies. Man Marziyan, Tumbad that Karan mentioned, Mukkabaz. Did it pan out how you imagined it would?
Actually, the only thing I feel that somewhere this year, or as she said, that we have been working on this for the last couple of years, and this time I think makers found a certain kind of synergy with the audience. There is a very interesting unsaid conversation. So when we were working on Man Marziyan or now Tumbad, I had a feeling that now we are actually somewhere in sync with the audience. When we, how to say, we can feel the heartbeat of our audience when ye un tak pahunchega. This is something which will reach. More than anything to do with business, it's the storytelling part which I feel that now we are spreading well, we are understanding our audience very well, and they are also understanding, and it's a how to say, growing together with the audience.
So tell me, do you agree with all of them in terms of, is it a better place as far as content is concerned?
You know, Anu, what I think is really amazing about this year is it's the year when the OTT platforms have also come into their
Absolutely.
own. There's so much of that content. There were harbingers of doom over the last few years about the fact that cinema is dying, that it's a dying medium, people don't want to come to the theatres anymore. I think what this year showed us is that it can all coexist. You can have cinema, maybe certain type of cinema, which might not be the type of cinema that was theatrical. I mean, you didn't have to think what is cinematic and what is not cinematic maybe a few years ago.
What is commercial?
Yeah, and what will draw people into the cinemas. But today, this year has shown us that with either big blockbuster entertainers or with high concept cinema, people will come repeatedly week after week to watch movies, regardless of the fact that they know it's going to be on their platform within 8 weeks, regardless of the fact that they've got a pirated USB drive at home that someone is being able to supply them. All that exists and is increasing, but you make a good movie and they will come.
So let me ask you this. Before I do this conversation, I always call up a couple of the trade experts, right? To just get a sense of how the year's gone.
And one out.
And one of them, who didn't want to be named, said that one of the big crisis points is going to be the Khan crisis, okay? That they are simply not as potent as they were 5 years ago. Now, these three men have really sort of constitute the holy trinity of Hindi cinema. I mean, they have driven this business for more than 25 years. Do you agree with this person? And if so, what is the impact for the next few years?
I don't agree.
I don't
actually.
agree with it either.
At all?
No.
At all.
It's such a stupid thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I don't agree with
I mean,
this.
thank God he doesn't want to be named, because then, we'd be saying he's
It'd be
stupid
like he's
on
a
national
moron.
No,
television.
because the fact is that, I mean, you can't,
I
one
mean,
year
till last
can't tell
year,
you that.
suddenly this year, because there have been 1 or 2 films with these lead actors that haven't performed, suddenly there's this theory. Yeah. I mean, last year when Amir, just a year and a half, gave Amir Khan, and then Salman does Tiger Zinda and Amir Khan does Dangal and does these monstrous numbers, it was like these guys are never leaving. And like suddenly, like 2 films don't work and it's like these guys have left. I mean, like,
You know, Anu, what is star power? What they bring you in on your opening day.
Right. Which was
Hugs
50
had
crores.
the biggest opening
Right.
day of all time in Indian cinema.
Yeah.
That's the star power. Then it's about the film. And that's going to happen. Films are going to work and not
there are
work.
films, there are
is
films
gonna
that are
happen
good
all
and
the time.
bad, and it's going to be, they're going to make an amazing film and it's going to work. Of course, there is something called age, and that none of us can fight. I mean, we're all going to be at some point, you'll have to, the kind of roles that you would do ideally in a certain age zone, you may not always be able to do. So then content will change and you do stronger parts. Amir already played father to 2 girls a year and a half ago, and that also is like calls for a new kind of age of cinema vis-a-vis the 3 actors you mentioned. That is definitely a point, not of concern, but a point to kind of consider.
Right, be mindful of.
In terms of that, yes, but it certainly doesn't grab them off their humongous, I mean, look at the numbers they do. Like when Shah Rukh's film Dilwale apparently is an underwhelming, you should see the numbers overseas.
Correct.
They're crazy. It's done
Correct.
$25 million. Do people know that? That is like, the blockbusters don't do that number. Like they've done, so I'm like, even the film that is mildly underwhelming is bigger than even the biggest hit of the year. So then how does that explain anything?
Also, we haven't really tested our box office. And I think that with Amir and with Dangal, for example, we came closest to 5. So we don't know what the size of the Hindi box office is. And I suspect that with the right film, the only way for us to test it is through one of them. I think that is the opportunity.
Like
that
Bahubali
we-
does 510
Yeah.
crores.
Yeah.
That's why I'm quiet right now.
Bahubali does 510
Fi-
crores.
on-
Hindi
on
language.
top.
It's the
These
highest.
guys are having their own conversation.
Sorry. Sorry.
What did we miss? There was a joke in
No,
there.
we just said that we're looking
Well,
at Aanand
yeah,
when we said
testing
we'll have
the
to test
box
where the
office.
box office can go.
No pressure,
Someone
Anand.
has to go.
But
Someone
actually, so Zero is an interesting combination of movie star and mega director, where there's always been content and stardom. You never know. There
And
is
also
like
a high concept.
Today, yeah, and
All of them
fully
also
high
high
concept.
concept.
I mean, today 400, we haven't touched, like, so do you know the gap between Bahubali and the biggest hit otherwise is 150 crores?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
The next big hit after that is, I think, it's Tiger Zinda hai,
No, it's
or
Dangal.
is it Dangal?
That's actually
It's
Dangal.
one of
And
them.
still
But
not.
it's a 5
I
or
think
10
Bahubali
apart.
did around 500
510.
crores in the Hindi
510.
version.
510 in Hindi.
And
Hindi.
Dangal did around 375. So I think you look
Yeah.
at that gap. That's
So
a
it's Dangal,
dubbed
that's
film.
135 crore gap that needs that there is no other film of, and it's not possible that it doesn't happen. It can yes, but one thing I will tell you, and that's one thing that we must all know: the month of December is gold. You have to know it. And there is a theory I have done as to why this month is gold. And
When
I've realized
are you trying
there
to
is a
figure this
theory.
out?
No, there is
There's a theory also.
there is a theory because from the 21st of December till the 2nd of Jan, there is a break at schools, colleges, and many people have that kind of holiday feeling. Now, not everyone demographically can afford to be on holiday. We think, oh, New Year's, who's in town? That's like 1%.
Correct.
Yeah.
That the rest are in town, they are free, they're more relaxed. It's end of the year, they have nothing to do. So each day works like a national holiday. Each day. So that's why, if you notice, Dangal's upside is also a lot to do with the fact that it's December. So if your film is not, but then Bahubali was not in
Bahubali, that's
December.
what I was about
It
to
was
say that.
April. So one saying you can't, but there is a gold in that month of December. Just to put it out there, that it is a brilliant period. More better than Diwali, better than Eid, and better than anything else.
But I think one thing to just consider from this year is that no actor, producer, director, nobody is as big as the script. And that is something that's just for us, you know. And I think that what we just need to gather from this is that earlier we used to be so obsessed, you know, star chahiye. And it doesn't diminish anything that any of the lead actors or actresses take away from their box office. All I'm saying is that this year is just for us to have more belief in the fact that, you know, it's okay to put your time, your energy and your belief in your content rather than chasing after like big names. You know, that's not the only way to go, and that's all that this year has done, at least for me personally, you know.
But Rhea, when you say that that star chahiye, that's surely not going away. I mean, it is still star chahiye, right? I mean, last year, one of the things that we also talked about was the delusion of the actors, okay? That many of them want... Yes, we did.
But it is a disease.
It is. And
Everyone has it. It's in levels, but we're all a little delusional.
Right. So
you know?
he, in fact, I think it was you, Karan, who
I
said...
always say it. I speak about delusion a lot because I know I go through that problem.
No, but you said that there are people who ask for double-digit paychecks when they don't, their films
Open
don't
their
open
films.
to double digits, right? So it was very funny because everyone picked Karan to be the one who's going to break this news to actors and say, "Ki lower the prices." And Karan promptly said, "No, Ronnie should be doing that."
Yeah, we're all going to pass the buck on that
Have
one
you
for
read
sure.
Ronnie's emails ever? So I want to tell you, he has a great way of being polite and being completely honest in equal measure. And he'll just say it at this, and I think Preeti is second to send those emails. Like, because many times that they say everything, but in such a English elocution way that you're like, oh, actually this sounds like even more like it can hit you hard, but yet make a lot of
so
sense.
not true though.
It's true, Preeti. You're
So
very
we now
polite.
designate Preeti to do the news.
Correct. So, no, but tell me, has anything changed in that? I know the entourage costs, hair and makeup goes up to 1 lakh a day. You know, has anything moved?
You're hitting a raw nerve.
Yeah.
It's like
Nothing has
a dukti
changed.
rug, really.
Yeah.
They're all
Nothing.
crazy with a capital C. They're cuckoo, I want to tell you, many of them. Just because their two films do well, suddenly it's all me, myself, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And then I'm like, hello, every film has a different scale. Sometimes if a budget is huge, and of course its recoveries are huge, you must pay. It's like it works ulta. There used to be a philosophy in cinema, which was like, badi picture hai, main aapko kam picture dunga. Kam paise dunga. But actually it's the ulta now. If you have a tiny film, you charge tiny, you take a back end. Work out a deal where you don't pressurize the budget. But it doesn't happen like that. You know, it's really exhausting sitting in monetary discussions. You know, it's embarrassing, it's exhausting, and it's really delusional.
So how will this
Stories have budgets. You know, the whole thing is that you can't add a star's budget, a talent. The fact of the matter is, I know for a fact that I cannot greenlight a film if it's not a known person for the box office. I rather not. It's just very, very hard. It's
So
very
you
hard
don't
from
want
the outside.
newcomers at all, Preeti?
I want newcomers. I want Karan to launch them. You know, because it kind
Newcomers via Karan.
No, because I'll tell you there is...
And then make me flag bearer of that episode right after that.
No, but Karan, I'll tell you, it works. There is a grammar for a launch.
Yeah.
Okay, and that grammar is not something that I can even imagine that I would be able to replicate or duplicate in some. There is a way to launch a young person, young talent in the industry. But the fact of the matter is, it's like Karan says, it's exhausting because we're constantly having conversations.
And can I say that the one big deterrent, and let me say I'm all for it, is celebrity management.
Really?
Because
Talent
I
manage.
think talent management,
Talent
when they come
management.
onto you with their theories of
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, you're not in the business really, because
hurts
many of
the
them are
business.
clueless. They are clueless
I think
about
the
the
problem is that
environment.
you've got this surround sound around the actors that might not
This is all the
necessarily be in their
agents.
best interest.
The modern version of the
Whether it's the
secretaries.
agents
There are
or
few
it's
of
people
them who
around
are
them.
very well versed, who actually have few of them, and let's not mention names, few of them are well versed, few of them are just like, they just think, oh, your film did well, increase your price by 5 crores.
But that's
I mean,
almost all. That the moment your film does well, I mean, we've had conversations internally saying, okay, film's done well, now we need to find the next person who fits the slot, because this one, I can tell you that a Badhai Ho or a Bareli Ki Barfi cannot be made again, not in the budgets that we made them. It's impossible.
Because
for
now,
the next
because
one.
that's because the same actors perhaps will now, you know.
It will never be
And the
made.
thing is, there are many actors besides the Khans, you know, really, that all of them can give you a 10 crore day one and a 1 crore day one.
That is true.
They can all, it
ranges.
depends on the film.
I think stardom in that sense is something that we use very loosely. There are very few stars actually. What is a star? A star is someone who, regardless of the type of film that they're in, is going to guarantee you that day one. I mean, it's not even a weekend today, it's a day one. Right? After that, it's really about the film. And I think, but you know, the problem in our industry also is that water isn't allowed to find its own level because the economics are not dictated by logic always, right? Because there's always someone coming in the door willing to offer someone something that might not be, you know, necessarily logical.
Right.
So
right.
so therefore, I mean, in most industries, water just finds its own level, and people are worth what their actual value is. Here, that's different. So therefore, I think the only thing we can do as producers is to focus on the scripts and really be able to get things to work regardless of the star. I know it sounds like a pipe dream right now, but that can only happen over time.
It's the way, and actually
It is
that's
the way-
exactly
it's the
what
way
I've been
forward.
doing. Like that's all I've been doing is like kind of empowering younger actors, giving them increased budgets perhaps, and to make sure that they, you know, that they kind of eventually break through in that, and then not pressurize it with their remuneration or their, you know, ask, you know, on a film. So a lot of it is like either like we spoke about it, like what Sid also said, it's high concept and big event. Sometimes big event films need the big stars because, you know, you can't justify that. But for high concept, you can totally take a chance. Like, you know, whether it's Badhai Ho,
Or Stree,
whether it's
these
Stree,
films, these are the big
all
examples
films, like
this year.
they're devoid of very, you know, but now they're all bigger stars as a result of these films. I hope now these actors, all these wonderful actors, Raj and Ayushman and, you know, Vicky Kaushal, I hope they really are solid and sensible about their monetary choices. Because, you know, it's very easy to get swept by an industry because you have...
And there will be someone out there willing to offer
you.
you
have
that.
social media elevating you in terms of... Then you have money being offered to you at events, endorsements, opening ceremonies, weddings, everything. Money keeps coming your way. So you start thinking, and then you go into an event and 3,000 people scream at you and you're like, I'm huge. But you know, it doesn't mean those 3,000 people are going to rush to the cinema hall to watch your film on day one if they don't like your promo.
No, and I also think that it's very important, not only for the young actors, but more than anything, I think it's very important for actresses to understand that this is their time, okay? Don't mess around. Don't try to make yourself a liability. This is, I mean, there is no reason, at least for me, in the next 2 years, that a solo heroine's film cannot open on a holiday. There is absolutely no reason. And the only way to do that is to be a team player, is to understand the content, is to be like, okay, I'm going to drive this, I believe in it, you know. You see actors do it abroad all the time, female actors, male actors, you know. There's an incredible story that Julia Roberts told about a Steven Soderbergh film, where they sent her 15 roses and put a note there, I heard your going rate is 15. And she did the film for free. You know, and that was Oceans. That was the first Oceans. They didn't have a budget. And but what I'm saying,
tell me how that works out.
But I'm saying that look at the faith. I'm saying look at the faith, look at the confidence. I'm not saying people turn around and do things for free, but what I'm trying to say is understand what this is going to do for you. Have the bigger picture in your mind.
Be wiser.
Be wiser and know that as a woman, it's really important for us to step ahead right now and be like, no, we can own this. We can own it. This is my film. I'm driving this film. I don't need a Khan. I don't need a Kapoor. I don't need anybody. And I'm a talented, young, intelligent woman, and I can handle this, and I can pull this, and I can open this film. And the only way that you can do it in a sensible, responsible way is by being as responsible to the producer as possible, because this producer is already taking a chance. I'm saying that with Vidya, with girls like Sonam, Deepika, Kareena now, you know, I know from being, you know, at home with Sonam, how difficult it is on your confidence, you know. It's not an easy thing to do, and they're doing it. But I'm not saying that now it's all set and everyone's like, come on, let's line up like 20 solo heroine films. It's still difficult.
Yeah.
You know, every day, I know what a struggle it was with Neerja.
Like I know on Razi, how many discussions Preeti and I had. We were like so apologetic about like the budget and then what it would open to, and we were all playing it down because, you know, eventually you start saying things like, oh, but it's a female-led film, which is ridiculous. Because, you know, actually it's a good film or a bad film, and why put it in block boxes? And Preeti and I used to talk about this all the time. We were like, oh, we think if it opens to 3 or 4, it'll be okay. And like, you know, if it does, like we were talking, like we should not spend more than X amount because, you know, the recoveries will be, don't apologize. What she's saying is bang on, because I'm like, you know, it cannot be.
I mean, I've been apologetic my entire career. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And I'm just like, because I'm also a female producer, you know, I am not Ronnie Screwvala or Karan Johar. I'm Anil Kapoor's daughter, who anyway people look at and like, dude, you should not be here. Like, how are you qualified, you know? And that is anyway something I have to fight every day, you understand? But for me, it's now I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to work hard, and I'm just going to make sure that the actresses that I work with, if I'm doing a female-led film, understand the responsibility that is on their heads, because eventually someone has to break the mold. Slowly.
And it's a team effort, because on Razi we had that.
Yeah.
We had that with
And you
Meghna,
opened
and
at
we had it
8?
with Alia as well.
What was
Yeah,
the opening?
we opened at 8. Yeah,
8
we
crores.
opened at 8 crores.
That's incredible.
But it was a team effort, and I think, you know, Meghna also kind of collaborated a great deal with us, because she kind of understood that this was the lay of the land.
No, it was also like making, like, sometimes, you know, I think that's where the collaboration of producer, like, so everybody asks sometimes, like, what's the job of a producer? You know, like, really, oh, so you give money. And I'm like, it's not like that.
To
you know, there is
sorry.
predominantly what is the job of a producer is ego management. That is what. It's not people management, it's ego management. You handle everything.
Right.
You literally handle everything.
Right.
And then if you have to put in, there are ways of approaching a director to make him or her cut their film. That's the one thing that we all fight, length. Like, can you cut the film? First you say it apologetically, then you'll beg, then you'll plead, then you'll scream, and then there'll be problems if it reaches that stage. But there's never been a film where I walked on and said, oh, like, I don't think this film needs to be cut. Every film is long. Every director loves their film.
All these 3 hours are fab.
Like everything is amazing, and I'm like, no, showcasing gets affected. And you know, being part of a studio before this said, and you know, like, Aanand, you and I are filmmakers, so it's like when we wear the producer hat.
Yeah, how does that work?
So it's really daunting, because in my office, many a time I'm reminded that I'm also the producer, because I'm so compassionate to the director, and eventually Apurva will turn around and tell me, you know, this is your money, it's not mine, it's going. It's going, you're not making this. So when you're fighting with me, I'm fighting for you. Are you crazy? You're giving them this 1 crore extra on a song. And I'm like, the set has to look nice. But like, no, you can't give more than 3 days for a song. And like these same conversations.
But he is the nicest. I mean, he was my first boss on Wake Up Sid.
Right.
And he, first of all, has a very soft spot for Ayan. I mean, I was in shock. Because Ayan was like, don't you think you should have a CRV? You know? And Kejo was like, you're right. I was like, what?
And we bought that car.
You bought the car?
And then when Apurva told me, when the film
Yeah.
was releasing, Wake Up Sid, and he was like, I want you to know one thing. That, you know, this is this type of movie, and you have spent 28 crores on that.
And the budget was 19
and I
crores.
walked in, and there was a member of my help at home who I said, "बहुत अच्छी picture बना रहे हो, Wake Up CID." And
Wake Up CID.
And that's when I knew that this film is just, they don't know anything what is Sid. They thought it was Wake Up CID. And I'm like, you've got to be clever about certain films. So then we fight for budgets on a typical type of film. We also know that there is a genre that, see, some break it completely. So you'll never think Andhadhun will do 70 crores plus. You'll never think Razi will do 120 plus. But there are, otherwise you can slot films in genres and do an approximation. So when we do a lineup, like I know Preeti and Aanand and Sid will tell you, it's a very simple parchi you take out and you do average domestic business of the film, depending on genre and cast. You do music recovery, satellite, digital, overseas, which is always very tiny, and depending, unless you have Shah Rukh Khan in the film, and then you do that and do average business. Okay, ye average chalegi, utna, and then you go backwards. It's a very simple calculation, actually. It's all of 5, and I've sat literally on every film with this and told, Sometimes you'll go within that. I mean, Preeti, how many times have we done this?
Several times for Razi.
Like
We worked backwards.
Yeah, literally. Like,
Yeah.
oh, but this will be 1 crore high here and then 1 crore.
Karan says, "Yeah, I'll push the envelope over
like
there."
you're really you're doing some khata, you know, literally like, you know, and it's
What do you
always
say?
And the thing is though that you're going somewhere on empirical data, but somewhere on instinct. Because
Yeah.
this is all.
And it
This
crushes
is
your
all,
soul.
yeah,
I mean, crushes
instinct.
So
at
like
the
if you
end
do
of the day.
Razi, which is a female-led film, then you'll go to Nirja.
Yeah.
But Nirja's business,
But
Nirja's
that's-
business is 75.
That's not an
plus.
average. That's
Yeah, so that's 75. So we'll say, no, Nirja's a big hit in that song. So let's be 50. Let's be 50.
It's
Nirja's
an
75.
average number. So
Yeah.
but that's the business side of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong
Right,
with that.
that's the
right?
way to do
I
it.
think that's the way to do it because when it breaks out, then more power to the people who backed it.
Yeah.
You know, it helps us back more.
Karan sir and me, I think our film definitely, if we are producing it, we spend a crore or 2 crore more on it because we are directors. So we let it go like
So you are also bilkul naram dil. You will also say हाँ for everything.
हाँ अगर अनुराग बोलेगा कि यार मुझे अब सर एक 5 दिन इसके लिए तो then I have to I can understand what he is asking for.
Right.
On other hand, when I see the film, I say यार इसके बिना जी सकते थे हम लोग. But that's fine.
Many times you feel कि ये हमने ऐਵੇਂ ही खर्चा कर लिया है. Actually, it's not showing
Right.
on screen. But
Yeah.
because there's a big word. It's called compromise.
Correct.
The opposite word of that is creative adjustment. So I always say we have to make some creative adjustments. Creative adjustments.
Also, I think the other thing is, you know, on the edit, you've got to be one step removed from the film as a producer. Because also, you've spent that money to do those scenes, to do those songs, to do those extra days here or there. You're actually cutting out stuff that is a bit heartbreaking also because that is money that you've spent on the film that's not going to be in the film anymore. But the directors actually created that. So that he or she's one step closer to the film. You've got to be able to have a little bit of that objectivity to be able to
And I
take
think
the right
especially
call.
as a director like Aanand sir, I know from when Sonam was shooting Ranjana that Aanand sir shoots a lot and he really enjoys his actors, you know. So I can't even imagine what that's like for him. And I know their actors love being on set with him. So for them, it's just like a creative process for Himanshu and him and whatever. And I know Sonam misses it every day. So I cannot even imagine what it's like to slash for you.
I mean, I remember Rhea and I sat on Khubsurat
Oh my God.
for days and days, but it was just
Your
one of those
notes?
things we had to do.
It was a mess.
Oh, those emails came.
No, the emails, he was sitting very polite, he had a notepad and all.
No, but Sid is very polite like that.
Anand, आप कैसे notes देते हैं? Do you say like, are you tough?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
No. Possibly नहीं. It's not possible with me. I can just sit and
This was a great compliment.
हाँ, this was a. But I've learned this new term called creative adjustment.
All the time.
Bad cop, good cop.
You learn creative.
Creative adjustment is such a nice term.
Yeah, you have to say.
इसका
हम
होगा क्या
creatively
मेरे साथ
adjust हम
पता
करें.
नहीं, but I'll use it.
Compromise बहुत harsh word है.
Yeah.
So
That sounds like it's going to be
compromise कर रहा हूँ मैं.
substandard also. Now you're
आप खुद बोल के डर
compromising.
जाते हो.
Yeah, but I don't want to compromise. हम creatively adjust करते हैं. So,
But let me ask you this. So you've got this opening. Razi got this opening. What has changed? Sonam told me that despite her and Kareena being attached, you could not raise the money that Varun and John raised for Dishu.
She did say that.
She did say that. You know. So does that change? Is that different now because we've had Padmavat and Razi and Veere and so many other movies?
So, you know, the thing is, I know I'm on the other side, which says that it's great that Razi and Veere have done the business they have, and we have to keep pushing the envelope, but sensibly. Right? So now you know that a 125, Tanu Weds Manu 2 did 150,
145, yeah,
145, 150, right?
Yeah,
So
150.
that's the highest number, and we need to keep creating content that pushes the envelope. Does that necessarily mean that we have to keep increasing the budgets of the films we're making? I'm not certain that goes hand in hand. That doesn't go hand in hand. But I don't think it's daunting. We were certainly not thinking about Razi thinking that, oh, it's female-centric. We loved the story, but we were being responsible on the kind of budget we wanted to place for it. And one of the things that as a producer and maybe being a serial studio person I've learned is that we kind of tend to greenlight our films on the average business that Karan says, but we don't even for a minute consider maybe a 10% profitability or money coming back to us. So essentially what we're doing in the business is we're greenlighting on a loss. Because if all we do is recover our money, then we're not paying our bills. And we're still at a loss. So I think that what's encouraging is these stories are flying. And there will be more stories. I think it has a lot to do with the choice of stories and how you price them.
Correct.
that's the sum, and it's true for everybody, male or female. You have to you have to find your budget in the story, and not really, gender based.
Tell me, Aanand, how do you go out on the limb with a project like Tumbar, which doesn't have like any stars attached? It's new directors in the making for so many years. A story that you can't even really explain because it wasn't even a horror film.
It was not a horror film.
It
That's
wasn't a
why
horror
I was very sure that I'm going ahead with something where I'll get the audience. It is just not a horror. It's a new genre. It's a new. I don't know how to define the genre of Tumbar, but I felt that it will attract the family audience somehow. That's what I always felt. This is a kind of film that the day my daughter is 18, I'll show this film to her. So it was for all those people. कि यार आप आओ ये film देखो and wait for the day that you can watch it with your family, with your kids.
Right.
Because it was about greed.
It was about greed. But it's very interesting that you saw it as a family film.
Family film. And greed, and that is so universal. Means that's what we want to teach the next generation, that not to be greedy. It's something. So I felt ये आनी चाहिए कहानी यार. That's it. There was no mathematics to it. There was no calculation.
It was something you liked.
This is something which I like.
Actually, I think for most of us, saying yes to a story or a film is more instinctive. The
You just feel it.
the science,
You just feel it.
we apply much later. Then you kind of put on the other hat and say, okay, let's be responsible, and now let's figure it out because But
So just to give you an example of the two hats that you wear, so when Dangal was brought to us as a story, right? Someone in our creative team had read an article and she said, we really must, consider this story. The thought of two female wrestlers, the instinctive reaction is, it's going to be an arty type of film because it's going to be two female wrestlers on screen with a father who's a coach. So the natural instinct in all our earlier meetings was to go to someone who's not a star at all, just a really good actor to play that part. And then if you just try to elevate that and say, but actually it's a really universal story, it's something that could appeal to the whole country, why are you limiting yourself in the way that you're thinking?
China.
Yeah, and China. So it really sometimes is just thinking a little bit out of the box versus saying that, okay, we've made Pan Singh Tomar, it was in that zone, Dangal will be another film in that zone, small, rural, etc. And suddenly you realize, okay, one thought could spark something new.
Sid, I'm sorry, there are very few actors who even look at material like this and see differently. Like it's also the other way that Amir Khan is probably the only one who at that point would have done Dangal.
Yeah, but in the first meeting he told us he'll do it in 10 years.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying that
Come back in 10 years.
Yeah, come back in 10
I'm
years.
like,
and we said yes.
Actors, it took us 7 rejections to cast Fawad Khan's role in Kapoor and Sons because he was a gay character.
Wonderful
and I'm like, and no one gave me that reason, but I know that was the reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so unfortunate. That's so unfortunate. Like, that, we had to kind of go to some of the lead talent of this country who actually should have just seen the film for what it was. And just done yes. And then when they see the film, then everyone says, I should have done it.
Right.
But I mean, I was really, we decided not to make it. So I'm just saying actors have to look at material differently. That, it doesn't conform to their image or their star status or perhaps the way they look at cinema. Sometimes Amir is one of them, that can spin content on it. Like he's always done these kind of films, that have actually pushed the cinema envelope. But there are many others who don't look at life like this.
And I'd say actually more power to someone like Ayushmann.
Right.
Because to do a film like Badhai Ho, where clearly, you had a Gajraj Rao and a Neena Gupta who were clearly driving the film in most ways. They had all the laughs, all that. But to realize the potential in that film and to agree to do it.
Selfless. But I want to tell you, even on Badhai Ho, I couldn't cast the parents.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's been through to get to
what
Gajraj.
fantastic parents.
I agree.
Oh
It worked out
It's the love story of the year.
Yeah.
Really.
Like,
It was written.
parents.
The whole script was actually written from the POV of the parents. And then we tried to cast it traditionally and then change the story. At one stage we told the writers, okay, that's it. Now you have to revisit your script, you have to change the point of view. Ayushman's, the character Nakul, had to be rewritten, and the second half
brought more into prominence
because we're not able to cast parents in the industry. So now we need to be able to get to somebody who's going to play
Because I don't
this.
want to play mother and I don't want to play father.
I can't play mother to 25-year-old or father.
Though I have a 25-year-old son.
So you can't cast it. So if
But the
somebody
funniest story on that I've heard is AK, when he was offered players. When he was offered players, he told Abbas Mastan, you think I look like Sonam's father?
What about Dil Dhadakne though? It took him 1 year to say yes. But Dil
He says,
Dhadakne
you think I look like Sonam's father?
क्या मैं
And those
सोनम का बात करता हूँ?
those poor filmmakers in white had become pale white. I
You
think,
know
at
my
the end.
father, if he's at an event with me, he just walks ahead of me. I'm like, Papa, can you come around? He's like, why are you so jealous of me? I'm like, dude. But AK is a different breed. He's not normal. You understand? Like, he is not a normal guy, you know. And but Dil Dhadakne though, I think I remember it took him 1 year to say yes to the film.
Thank God he did, because he was so
He
good
was
in
so
it.
good.
Yeah, and then
He was so good.
And but you don't understand. I have never seen my father work out so hard.
Right.
For Dil Dhadakne though, because his thing was that if I'm playing a father, I have to look like the best father in the world. You understand what I'm saying? So now he's
So powerful.
next.
He's in Takht, and I told him he has to put on weight. I think he really had a shit fit on.
I don't
me.
think he's registered it.
Yeah.
I think he just looked at you. Then
He just
he's
looked
like,
at me blank.
no, he said, Karan wants to destroy my career.
It's all part of the plot.
Yeah, it's like part of the plot. अच्छा मेरे को लेगा, मोटा करेगा, अपना career बनाएगा.
He'll think I'm also jealous.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of his
Because
bona
I'm looking better than
fide
Karan,
beauty.
so he's not able to handle it.
Tell me this. So clearly, it's been a good year for content. It's been a good year for women. It's also been a very, very good year for women because of Me Too, right? Something that honestly I didn't see coming that quickly to the Hindi film industry at all. And there's many wonderful things that have come out of the trauma and the sort of everyone's still very raw, but there are many good things coming. You know, for the Film Producers Guild to make it mandatory that all members need to follow POSH guidelines and have an ICC. But what has changed on the ground? Has the way of doing business changed? Has anything on sets changed? What has happened?
Of course.
Yeah?
Entirely. It's also a feeling of, to me personally, I can speak for myself, it took me like a few days for me to just go within and feel that I knew some of this.
Right.
Why didn't I act
I think
on
we
it?
all did.
You know, I know this about this, and I know that, and I'm not acted on it. And I have no right then, you know, to
Take the higher moral ground,
you know, we're all flawed in that. I think we're all accountable and responsible because all of us know things, and we constantly will work with people who probably have had history in this zone. It's to me appalling. I mean, you know, to me, like when I read some of those stories, it broke my heart into pieces, literally, because I felt like this was happening in our environment. And some of it, like, we just brush under the carpet by saying it's not my problem. But it is our problem because we are a tiny fraternity. We have to be responsible and accountable to each other. And now today when I see this kind of, you know, like what Sid is like as a guild and when POSH committees are being set up and it's become a thing, I can see the difference in my own office, which actually had a very healthy atmosphere.
Yeah.
We have a very kind of, you know, like cool energy like that. You know, it's all good. Like we don't have these kind of predators. Like I wouldn't, because I think somewhere I'm not that person who would endorse it or endorse it. No, that would be the wrong word. Who would even encourage it slightly or allow it at all. But I can just tell that there is all the respect that should have been is there. But now there is a sense of like just behavior.
How do we create an environment where you feel comfortable that you can go and talk to this person and you won't be, you know, a troublemaker?
Right.
Which is what I think POSH is.
Which is what we've
That is what POSH is.
No, what we've done in the guild is actually, and that's a committee that Preeti is in and actually Apurva is in as well, is that what we've tried to do is, number one, make it mandatory for all our members to have an internal complaints committee that's headed by a woman. That woman does, I mean, will most probably not be the CEO of the company because we have very few who are, but be the senior most woman within the organization or someone with the ability to have control over, you know, a group of people. And they have to reach out, they can reach out to that person directly without fear of their name being revealed and ensure that they're able to take their complaint to them. And yes, like Rhea said, ours are not structured working environments, right? We've got sets.
But now they are getting.
I mean, if you're in a bar and discussing a script, you're at a workplace.
No,
that's a workplace.
And you need someone on ground. You need someone who's physically there because when you go through it, in that moment, you're not thinking, I better write this committee email. You know what I mean?
No, and the problem has been that the informality of the working environment has led to people
Absolutely.
feeling like,
How do you
am I
imagine
okay?
because you're
Should I
living with those
really be
people for
taking
months.
this badly? Because actually we were at a bar and it was just a comment.
What bothers me is when you second guess a woman's, a woman's story, and by saying that, that bothers me the most. Like that really bothers me. And as a man, it affects me when people say that, oh, but there's no proof. Like you cannot. A woman who'd come out and speak, you have to believe her.
Yeah, but that's why I love this law. No, I love this law. It takes for granted if a woman has come up and said something, she's telling the truth.
Yes.
Right.
It doesn't. There is no room for question on that.
And there shouldn't be, because it takes a hell of a lot to put your life out there.
No, and I think it's liberating also to a certain extent for women, because I think that for so many years, and I don't know if Preeti will agree with me, I probably will, but you sit in these meetings, sometimes you're the only girl, or you're like one of two girls, and you'll sit in a meeting and somebody will say something so incredibly but so veilingly sexist,
right?
And you're sitting over there and you're like, did you actually say that? Like I had an actor who I pitched a script to. My director told him that I'll give you the final draft of the script, but Rhea wants to go through it and make some changes. So he looked at me and said, so like you're like producer, like you're actually involved. And I looked at him and said, then what the F am I doing here, bro? But at the end of the day, I'm saying you'll be sitting in a meeting, someone will say something so sexist, and you'll just shut up, because you'll be like, you know what, I don't want to disrupt this.
Yeah.
It'll happen again, okay? And nobody will react, and you'll be the only one thinking it, and again you'll shut up. And then the third time you start thinking, am I mad? Because nobody is reacting. No one is reacting, and you're so afraid to be that person that's like, again she started. Again she's going on about this feminism thing.
And then there are 3 words that many men use that they need to be slapped for. For a woman, you are.
Right.
They'll say for a woman.
For a female producer.
Right.
Like, oh,
You're not bad, huh?
For a female producer, rather like, on top of it or whatever. Like, I mean,
I think there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen, and the disruption has started,
And
which
for
is
all
good
of us.
for all of
For
us.
all of
because
us.
I think we have to
were
admit
sitting-
that
yeah.
maybe
We were all
3 to 5
low.
years ago, like
But I
Karan
have to tell
said,
you, everyone's messages are becoming more polite to each other. Everyone's to the point.
Everyone's questioning this
the
fear.
wink emoji has taken a big beating. No one is saying.
How's the case is.
No sweethearts, I know.
no, and a lot of men are saying that, oh, so that means we can't even talk to a woman. I mean, we can't even compliment a woman. We can't.
Right.
The fact is that a woman knows. It's about the impact on the woman.
And you're
The woman
also
knows,
aware. When you're crossing the line, you're aware.
And the
But I
woman knows the way in
really
which that's
hope that
occurring.
the collateral damage is that people don't stop employing women.
But I've heard
That
that, Karan, and that is
Yeah,
my
we've
biggest
all heard
problem.
that.
We've all heard it, that this is too much trouble. Let's not employ.
But you
or
think
the
that's
other
gonna
side.
Oh, no, it's not employ an attractive woman.
No, I don't even
That is
know
something
that.
that someone has actually said to me. That nahi, wo thoda aati thi apna skirt ke saath and all that stuff. I was like, bro.
No, so there is a
she's
learning.
asking for it. You know what I mean? And I just feel like,
Oh my God.
No, but these are things that's just there, it's ingrained. Like, sometimes these things, unfortunately, sometimes when men say things, I really don't think that they're even thinking.
They're
not aware.
They're just
It's
saying
just a
it because it's part of their, they've just grown up hearing these things and they continue saying them and they think it's okay because they've gotten away with it.
Right. But let me ask you this. Now that we're all talking about it and we are all more aware, does the content change? Do you have an impact on the kind of female characters you see on screen, the item numbers, the lyrics of a song? Does that happen?
I mean, I've gone on record and apologized that I've had item songs in my feature films and I don't think I would do it again.
Really?
And I said it and I said that, it's just that, I have no problem with like a girl dancing and people that's not an item song. An item song is when she's objectified.
Absolutely.
And when there are men lusting for her
Like a
in
Chikni
that,
Chameli.
like Chikni Chameli
Absolutely.
was. I don't think I would ever do that again. It's never going to happen in a Dharma production film and I will make sure of it. It's because, like, Desi Girl is not an item song.
Yeah, it's not.
Desi Girl, but Chikni Chameli is. And I don't think I would do that because I think it's things we say like this. Like, we don't realize lyrics. I've grown up singing Khambe jaise khadi hai, ladki hai, chadi hai. I don't even realize what those words are. And then you suddenly sing that song and you're like, oh my God. This is so misogynistic and it's absolutely ridiculous that we have done it. And a lead actor like Amir Khan has danced to that song. He himself on my show has actually said that I did this and I apologize. Like, I wouldn't do it again. And I'm like, it makes you think that we don't even think of what these words are. Like, I have no problem with brilliantly written and a beautiful song, just the way Gulzar Saab wrote the songs in Omkara, are stunning. Zaba pe laga laga re namak ishka is beautiful.
It is.
Okay, and even Bidi Jalaile is
Bidi Jalaile
stunning.
is outstanding,
There is a but it's the the way now you picturize a song like that, you've got to kind of make sure that you don't, because eventually we are a very impressionable medium. And what people think, like about what they see, and I think characters are changing, women are changing on screen for shiz. They definitely are. Like, you cannot make a regressive character now and pretend that it's going to go
But
like...
Karan, this is the year when Sonu Ki T2 Ki Sweetie did over 100 crore.
Yes.
I mean, that
So
is
I'm
a
not saying
very
those,
misogynistic
I'm not
film.
saying that those films will not work and that they will not be made, but lesser will be made. You're
Yes,
talking
sir.
about one
So
film.
वो you said about this song, no? खंबे जैसी खड़ी है. मजरू साहब ने ये बात बोली थी. And somebody was interviewing him and said कि आज की जो फीमेल एक्ट्रेसेस हैं वो वैसी क्यों नहीं दिखती जैसी आपके टाइम पे होती थी, यू नो, कि वो एक ग्रेस थी उनमें, अब नहीं है. एंड ही सेड यार वो हम ही जिम्मेदार हैं उसके, कि हम लोगों ने उनके लिए लिखा था कि दम भर जो उधर में वो फेरे वो चंदा मैं तुमसे प्यार कर लूंगी, और अब हम लिखते हैं कि खंबे जैसी खड़ी है लड़की है. सो यू विल लुक एट द फीमेल इन दैट लाइट.
It's actually, let me tell you one thing, it's the 80s that did us in. We are still facing the onslaught of the 80s in Hindi cinema. With all the films that got remade from South films that got remade, and we lost all sense of objectivity, technology and accountability where it came to women characters. You know, it really is all that, you know, dancing on in a way and, you know, balls coming towards you and oranges hitting your stomach and, you know,
rolling down the hill
and
Which has become kitsch value for some now, but for many
and the
it's
word
still
two things,
okay.
and belly button fixation.
Correct.
You know how many close-ups, you can remove 1,000 close-ups in the 80s of belly buttons, literally. And I want to say that eventually that has really caused the undoing, you know, of like what, and we're still basing that whole, the way women were represented, it was not like that in the 60s and 70s.
No.
You just see it from the 80s. The 90s was still peeling off the 80s, and now, it's only now that you won't do it.
But I think we can
change
be,
hoga.
but I think we can be really, I'm saying we can be really hopeful with this generation. Means like, dude, I have never had an item song in my film in my life, because I would never. Even we had Tarifa, which was before this whole thing came out, which was a reverse item song, you know, and that was where the idea came from. Is that, dude, I'm over it. I'm over looking at random naked chicks just around a guy just because they're like accessories. I don't want it. And what if we spin that and use that in a song? And Farah liked the idea, because I feel that, you know, for better or worse, now we are more aware, you know, as young women and as young men, and we have been raised to understand that, look, equality is a living, breathing thing that you have to acknowledge. Men and women are the same. You cannot just sit down and be like, okay, she's an accessory and I'm the lead in this whole thing, and it's her, you know, it should be her dying wish to just be on my arm, you know, and that's base, or she should be happy that I'm objectifying her.
Tell me one thing that has made you happy this year.
Personally, I'm really happy with the Me Too, the start of the conversation, you know, giving women a platform and being able to come out. That is, for me, the biggest thing that's happened in our industry. I'm really happy.
Anand, tell me what has made you happy.
The stories, the kind of stories which have worked this year, whether it is Badhayo, Istri and Razi.
In terms of what I was really happy about this year, one is, like Aanand said, I think the sort of movies that maybe would not even be made 5 to 7 years ago, doing such exceptional numbers at the box office, which is fabulous. And two is, I'm really proud of the industry in the way we've stepped up over the last few months with what we've done and taken swift action once, you know, something came up. We've not always been like that in the past. We've not always been the swiftest to react when there have been issues facing the whole industry. But I think in this case, we knew that we are an industry in the limelight. We knew that maybe it was happening elsewhere as well, but that's we can't be making an excuse about the fact that we are in the limelight, therefore we're being targeted. We weren't being targeted at all. It was just a movement that which time had come. And I think the way that the guild stepped up to be able to take the steps that we did, I'm very, very proud of, and hoping that that continues.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that I think this year, with the films like Razi, Veere and all doing well, plus with this movement, I think that everything sort of is intertwined. And I think that women are just finding their voice, you know, which is really powerful and makes me really happy. It makes me feel liberated, calmer, hopeful, you know, and that makes me really happy.
I think I actually agree with everyone on everything. So I think the Me Too stories definitely are something that when I say, I can't say that makes me happy, it just makes me introspect. And I think it's empowered the industry in a certain way. Also, what Sid said in terms of, I think, the fact that there was swift action taken by the guild and also by the accountability of the key members, and I think who have made everyone accountable and put things into operation almost immediately, I think is very, very creditable. But I would also like to add that what has made me happy is the advent of breakthrough actors, male and female. I think there's so many actors that have actually broken through and have given us various possibilities of casting that, kind of have created many more films as a result. And I think that is what has been very heartening.
I need to let you go, but I have one last question, always one last. 2019, what is your prediction? What do you see happening? You go first.
Scary. I have very big films. And,
You do.
So important, Karan.
I have like, I'm scared.
Brahmastra is December.
Brahmastra and Kalank and Kesari and Student of the Year and like, and
I'll be looking at the cast and
yeah, so I'm like, yeah, my God. So I'm just like,
And you're shooting Takht.
I'm shooting Takht in September. So I mean, I don't know. I just have, I don't have apprehension of fear. I have nausea.
Rhea, for you?
For me, I'm just working on my scripts. Hopefully, I'll start one or two. I'm also working on a show. But I think the year has given me, I feel like I've just become an adult in some sort of way. And I was just like a scared child before this. And I'm just, I never had, I did Veereti Wedding just out of just sheer blind determination. But now I have confidence in the things that used to scare me even more. So I'm giving my writers time. I'm trying not to be a factory. I'm trying not to let all of this overwhelm me. Hopefully, I'll put some more stories for women out. This is actually all the 3 films that I'm working on are, again, female protagonists. It just happened. I have a disease. And I just hope that
You're just sexist. You hate men.
I love men. I think they're fab, but I just think that there's enough.
Do something for men as well.
Okay, fine. I'll do it with you. No, but I just hope that I get the money to make the films, and I just hope that people like them and that I get to make them the way that I want. But yeah, I'm excited.
Nice. And Sid, you have The Sky is Pink?
Yeah, so we've got Sare Jahan Se Acha starting sometime early next year, and we've got The Sky is Pink. So next year is going to be a pretty
Sare
exciting
Jahan
year.
Se Acha is the one with Shah Rukh.
Well, we haven't officially announced the cast
Oh
yet,
dear.
but we start that early next year.
Did I just out it?
So yeah, no, it is going to be an exciting year. Karan hasn't either.
Karan and Taran. I have not said anything.
But yeah, so I mean, it is going to be an exciting year. But I think overall, from an industry perspective, I'm pretty optimistic about next year. I think it's, as like sort of Karan said, it is going to be a very, very exciting year because there are tons of big films, and the ones that come out of left field and surprise us, those are going to be the ones to look forward to. And I think next year also, Water is going to find its own level on the OTT front also, because there's going to be that much more understanding of what's working, what's not working, because right now it's been, a bit of a rush into making a lot of content, which is exciting. But there'll be some amount of science that comes into it next year because we'll see the results of that.
Right.
So that's also going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Anand, you're going to sleep in Jan, I'm sure.
Yeah. And this
just
year
catch up on-
this year has been very hectic for the entire team with zero,
Yeah.
ending up with zero. So next year more of scripting, and I'm expecting more of Badhaiyos and Istris and Razis coming out in 2019.
Do you have anything on board already as a producer?
No, we are in the scripting stage right now, so
But it's an exciting time.
it's an exciting time. Sure.
And how are you feeling about Zero?
Too excited, very excited about it, and
I love with such a stoic face. You said, I'm too excited.
there's so much in
your head.
going around, no?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm excited about as a director going ahead and doing such an emotional film which has got so much of VFX in it.
Right. That's a very unique combination.
But that's the best combination.
It is.
Technology and emotion, when that combines, it's unstoppable.
Exactly. Yeah. Can't wait to see it, and good luck. Good luck. And Preeti, for you.
I'm actually excited about the big films next year.
The tentpoles.
The tentpoles, because I really think they're not going anywhere. I think that, those stories just needed to have been reimagined. Yeah. That's what will test our box office and push the envelope at the box office. I'm really excited, and I think that 2019 is the year. So you want to see where that leads us, because if those push the envelope, then more money will get invested, and it's cyclical. From a Jungly Pictures point of view, we've actually, we've created content that's going on other platforms now. So it's our stories, the stories are hard and they're hard-hitting stories, and we're not worried about theatrical, non-theatrical anymore.
Right.
So we're just moving into being a content producer, irrespective of size of screen.
And for viewers like me, it's win-win. Tent poles or
You're
small.
not a viewer. Who has called you a viewer?
Tough viewer, if
No, I
You're a
understand.
judgment ki Rani. Sitting against that pure, pristine backdrop, giving him in a very sweet face, saying the worst things about the film. With that idea, the film was just tiring and exhausting.
Yeah.
It really left me underwhelmed. That smile has not left her face. And I'm like, she's torn the film apart with that smile. And she's called herself an innocent viewer. You must end your show on that note.
Get a t-shirt, this is Judgment Ki Rani.
I'll make it for you.
Guys, thank you. This was so much fun. Really, this was so much fun, and can't wait to see what all of you do next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys, we just finished shooting the Producers Roundtable, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to Film Companion for lots of entertainment and cinematic knowledge.